The time is 6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Ramesh Pires. First, the headlines. The European countries issue a continuous support to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka welcomes another large consignment of humanitarian aid from India. The Speaker endorses certificate on 3 bills. The Sri Lanka Navy intercepts a local multi-day fishing trawler engaged in an illegal migration attempt. In news overseas, riots plea against Indian Prime Minister rejected by the Supreme Court. And in sports, the 5th ODI of the Australia's tour of Sri Lanka is being played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. Now the local news in detail. The European zone countries has assured continuous support to Sri Lanka at this difficult time, requesting them to be considered as friends. This was stated when ambassadors of those countries met President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the President's house today. The diplomats pointed out, giving specific plans of building the economy, the international community will be able to assist Sri Lanka. The President said 90% of the Sri Lankans live in rural areas and 75% out of them are engaged in agriculture. Therefore, he pointed out by providing them with fuel and fertilizer, many problems including food issue can be solved. Attention was paid on many sectors including investments, tourism and education during the discussions. The Speaker, Mahinda Yamapaewardene, endorsed the Certificate on the Industrial Disputes Special Provisions, the Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment, the Civil Procedure Code Amendment Bills which were passed in Parliament recently. The purpose of the Industrial Disputes Special Provisions Bill is to reduce the congestion in the Magistrates' Court in resolving labour disputes and to delegate the powers of prosecution to the chairman of labour tribunals. The Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill amends Section 442 of the Code of Criminal Procedure Act No. 15 of 1979 and provides a free copy of the final order of the judgment or case report to each party in a case free of charge. The Civil Procedure Code Amendment Bill adds a new Section 154A to the Civil Procedure Code and exempts certain documents from formal proof in certain legal proceedings. Accordingly, the said bills will thus be in effect. Sri Lanka Navy intercepted a local multi-day fishing trawler with 35 men, women and children suspected to be on an illegal migration attempt to Australia via sea were apprehended during a search operation in the western seas of the island yesterday. The Navy said 25 males, including 5 individuals, were behind this racket, 4 females and 6 children were taken into custody. Further inspections revealed that the multi-day trawler had suffered a mechanical failure in its engine. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with more local news. The Foreign Minister, Professor J.L. Pires, held a bilateral discussion with Minister of External Affairs of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, yesterday on the sidelines of the CHOGM summit in Kigali, Rwanda. Foreign Minister Pires expressed warm appreciation for the very extensive support extended to Sri Lanka by India at this time of difficulty. The Foreign Minister said that this assistance has helped Sri Lanka face this extremely challenging period. The two ministers also discussed future collaboration in a variety of fields. The Colombo High Court has issued summons on former Minister Johnston Fernando and 2 others to serve indictments in the case filed against them for using Satosa employees for political activities. Accordingly, the 3 accused have been ordered to make an appearance before the court on the 4th of July. The Bribery Commission lodged a case before Colombo Magistrates Court against Johnston Fernando for allegedly using 153 employees of Lanka Satosa in political activities while serving as a minister between 2010 and 2014 and incurring a loss of 40 million rupees to the government. The Colombo Foot Magistrates Court today ordered the release of former Minister Kumara Welgama from the bribery case filed against him. The case was taken up before Colombo Chief Magistrates Nandana Amarasinghe today. The Bribery Commission had lodged the case accusing the former minister of allegedly incurring losses to the government by creating an unapproved vice chairperson position at the Sri Lanka Transport Board. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmaya.
Moving on to the main news story. Sri Lanka welcomed a large humanitarian consignment consisting of 14,700 metric tons of rice, 250 metric tons of milk powder and 38 metric tons of medicines donated by the people of India in Colombo today. The total value of this consignment is more than 3 billion rupees. The Indian High Commission in Colombo said this large consignment of humanitarian supplies underscores abiding people-to-people bonds between India and Sri Lanka. This is the second consignment under a large commitment of 40,000 metric tons of rice, 500 metric tons of milk powder and medicines by the government of Tamil Nadu. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watch Night. A 3-day power cut schedule until Sunday has been announced by the Public Utilities Commission. The power cut schedule for today is for 2.5 hours from 12 noon to 10 p.m. A 2.5 power cut from tomorrow will come into effect from 9:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. A 2-hour power cut will be imposed on Sunday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that came to you in Watch Night. Moving on to the Bulletin of World News, first the headlines. Riots plea against Indian Prime Minister rejected by the Supreme Court. Ukrainian forces told to retreat from key eastern city. The US Senate passes first gun control bill in decades. Now the world news in the details. India's Supreme Court has upheld a ruling that cleared Prime Minister Narendra Modi of complicity in the 2002 Gujarat riots. In 2013, a court in Gujarat had rejected a plea against the clearance given to Mr. Modi by a Supreme Court-appointed probe. The petition was filed by Zakia Jaffrey, widow of former Congress MP. Ishan Jaffrey, who was killed during the riots, the 2002 riots were one of India's worst outbreaks of religious violence. Ukrainian forces in Severodonetsk have been told to withdraw. The city is the focus of Russia's invasion as Moscow tries to take control of large parts of eastern Ukraine. Luhansk Regional Governor Sharei Haidai said remaining in positions that have been relentlessly shelled for months just doesn't make sense. Russian forces have made advances in recent days and have nearly encircled the city and its twin city, Lysychansk. The US Senate has passed a gun control bill, the most significant firearms legislation in nearly 30 years. 15 Republicans joined Democrats in the upper chamber of Congress to approve the measure by 65 votes to 33. It follows mass shootings last month at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and a primary school in Uvalde, Texas, that left 31 people dead. The bill will now have to pass in the House of Representatives before President Biden can sign it into law. Back to the headlines of the world news. Riots plea against Indian Prime Minister rejected by the Supreme Court. Ukrainian forces told to retreat from key eastern city. The US Senate passes first gun control bill in decades. And that concludes world news. Moving on to development news, the Registration of Persons Department has planned to introduce new unique digital ID for all Sri Lankan citizens above 15 years. The digital identity card is set to digitalize the process of submitting accurate details of all the citizens and enable the presentation of information on the ID cards of individuals in a simpler manner. In addition to the biometric information, the ID also includes fingerprints, the iris and a photo of the holder. And that came to you in development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports news, the fifth ODI of the ongoing Australia tour of Sri Lanka is being played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. With the hosts already claiming an unassailable 3-1 lead in a 5-match series, the last white ball match of the series will primarily be a dead rubber. Addressing the reporters before the fifth ODI, Australian captain Aaron Finch acknowledged the unbelievable hospitality and love from fans on this tour. Earlier, Sri Lanka elected to bat and were all out for 160 runs after 43 overs, setting Australia a target of 161 runs for a consolation win. And that came to you in sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, following the completion of the IPO process, the shares of Luminex Limited ceremoniously commenced trading on the Colombo Stock Exchange yesterday. The shares have been listed on the Dirisavi board of the CSE under the 2010 Capital Goods sector. The occasion was marked with a special bell-ringing ceremony organized at the CSE trading floor. And that was business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
In economic news, the Colombo Stock Exchange has announced the appointment of Mr. Dilshan Veerasekara as the chairman of the board of directors of the CSE with effect from today. Mr. Veerasekara has served on the board of the CSE since 21st November 2017 and succeeds Mr. Dumit Fernando, who steps down as the chairman after completing his 2-year tenure. Mr. Veerasekara is the Director, Chief Executive Officer of one of the leading investment banking firms, First Capital Holdings. And that was economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
And finally, on to the weather report. The Met Department forecasts showery condition over the southwestern part of the island to enhance slightly from today. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Galle and Matara districts. Fairly heavy showers of about 50 millimeters occur at times some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in Kandy and Nuwara districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batiklo districts during the afternoon or night. Very strong winds about 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. And to conclude this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The European countries assure continuous support to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka welcomes another large consignment of humanitarian aid from India. The Speaker endorses certificate on 3 bills. Sri Lanka Navy intercepts a local multi-day fishing trawler engaged in an illegal migration attempt. In news overseas, riot pleas against Indian Prime Minister rejected by the Supreme Court. And in sports, the 5th ODI of the Australia's tour of Sri Lanka is being played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.